All right, so yesterday we talked about this timeline effect of the Holocaust. Again, it starts out pretty small, but as Hitler became Fuhrer, right away you could see this master plan kind of unveiling. Right, you see it with the Nuremberg laws, Kristall Nacht, and then kind of moving forward from there. All right, so yesterday we talked about this. Okay, I didn't get to mention with your guys' class. I just kind of picked up on the third period about how this dehumanization process occurs while entering the camp. Right, so these concentration camps that were scattered all across Germany, which I showed you an image of that yesterday, and where these locations were, which it literally filled up the whole map. It looked like of Germany and even parts of Poland, and or really all Central Europe. Okay, but I want to talk more about that dehumanization process today, and really just how many of the Jews that were entering these camps, they had to give up everything, all their valuables. They were literally tattooed with a number on their arm. No longer would they be called by their names, right? Okay, and in any case, you can see how this could be a huge, huge, terrible undertaking, right? And how their lives were changed forever. All right, so there you go. I'll give you some time here. I know it's a bit of a longer bell ringer, and we'll review it. We'll talk over it, and then right after this, I'll give you time to work on your projects. Tomorrow, if depending on how long it takes you guys, I might just extend it over into tomorrow, and we'll review the sources then once everybody's finished up. Also, Ms. O'Neill printed out these packets, which is really nice of her. I would never do that. I'm just joking. Just joking. Just joking. All right. If you guys want a packet, okay, it has the sources attached to them. Okay, you guys can do that as well. It's up to you. Put it right here behind us. Okay. Cool. There you go. All right, so with the Holocaust here, okay, I saved this for last because I want to dive in detail a little bit more about it. And obviously, this happens before even World War II occurs, and even during the span of the war, right? So with the Nuremberg trials, a lot of the evidence that was displayed was a lot about the Holocaust here, about these Nazi officials, what they were doing, the harsh reality of the regime. All right, so with that horrible timeline here, so again, it kind of starts even before the war, even before Hitler becomes the Fuhrer. Okay, as Chancellor, and even before that, as he was placed in jail, he wrote that book, Mein Kampf, which detailed about the true enemies of Germany, why they're such in a low state after World War One. And yeah, he blamed communists, he blamed Jews, he blamed other ethnic groups as well, but mostly, yeah, Jews. So with that, right, this timeline effect here, as Hitler becomes a Fuhrer, you can see this plan already being rolled out. Right, the Nuremberg laws, which we talked about quite a bit already. And again, that start Nuremberg, well, it ends the trial at Nuremberg. And we mentioned about the reasons for that already. So those Nuremberg laws where the Jews had to wear the Star of David, obviously thinking it, have identification wherever they went, and it was advised many German citizens were trying to, obviously to advise them to refuse services to Jewish people. They come into restaurants or the businesses, you name it. So include them from public schools, from education, right? So separating the two, obviously, from the beginning. Any type of relationships, marriages, you name it. So yeah, already this was beginning in 1935 with the Nuremberg laws. All right, fast forward a couple of years, we talk about Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, and this destruction that was laid waste all across Germany, in many towns, villages, cities throughout Germany. And they're targeting businesses, homes, humiliating, embarrassing, even killing some of the Jews on the streets. And the SS, the German citizens, the Nazi youth, we talked about the Hitler youth already, and we mentioned about what they were taught through their educational systems, how brutal it was, really. Okay, and we mentioned about the synagogues that were being destroyed, their cemeteries being destroyed, and how they were trying to rid Jewish people from these communities. Right, and then from there, we talk about these concentration camps and dehumanization. What is dehumanization? Talk a little bit about it with propaganda. Now here, obviously propaganda aimed at Jewish people as well, which one of your sources is about. Well, I go that. Yeah, right. So to try to tear any type of emotion you might have for, in this case, Jewish people, right? So depict them as animals, depict them as beast monsters, right? And that was occurring all throughout this propaganda teaching within these public schools and all schools all throughout Germany by the Nazi regime, how they're using that in this indoctrination process. Right, with this dehumanization of the concentration camps, Jewish people came in, they were stripped of their clothing, given an outfit that can resembled these pajamas as the movie depicts, right? And with that, they're taking their valuables, any type of possessions they might have had. Their heads were all shaved. Okay, they were tattooed a number on their arm. And from there on out, we mentioned about the starvation. We mentioned about the lack of resources that they had, water, food, you name it, and how they were literally caged in these pens and different types of gates, obviously surrounding in these camps, and living in close, tight areas. At these bunk beds I showed you yesterday about how you have 10 people literally in one block of these bunk beds. And when it comes to dysentery, sickness, that's spread pretty rampant throughout these camps. Okay, and how many of the Jewish people suffered as there's no running water, no electricity, no heat, no insulation in these buildings. You can only imagine how cold it gets. We talked about the Battle of Bulge, how cold it was in Belgium around that time. Stalingrad, same thing, right? Sometimes reaching into the negatives, -10, -20 degrees. So these people suffered, they starved, and it was brutal. All right, towards the end of the war, we mentioned that as well about how the Allied powers were pushed in each direction. And these camps were somewhat destroyed, and eventually they turned into death camps. Okay, how a lot of these Jewish people were killed in these gas chambers pretty quick, right? And a lot of them were buried in these mass burial sites. Okay, their bodies burned to try to eliminate any type of evidence. They also, when I was talking about entering the camp, a lot of times you'd have the younger, the elderly, even women sent directly to the gas chambers as they weren't fit enough for the work. Okay, that needed to be done in these concentration camps. Not all the time, but for the most part, that would happen. So that's something to know. All right, again, as the Allied troops were coming into these camps that were still there, right, obviously there's a lot of them still there, so that we don't forget that we remember what happened, like Auschwitz. I feel like the video just showed you today, and depicting what went on, what happened. Okay, there's also a lot of different types of experimentation processes going on where the Nazi scientists would perform many experiments to see how far the human body could go under intense situations. So sending many of these individuals up in the air, let's say a plane without an oxygen mask, to see how long it would last, how long it would take for, let's say, a person to withstand the G force, I guess you'd say, moving in a fast airplane or eventually a jet plane. Okay, how long someone could survive at intense, cold temperatures. Okay, and how long it would take for someone to literally die from burning alive. Right, there's many experiments that were done to these people in these concentration camps that obviously we take note today. We have it for medical statistics, but at the same time, this was brutal. All right, so I mentioned about the Allied powers coming in. So we mentioned about how a lot of these Jewish people look like skeletons as they're deprived of food for so long. And just the slightest bit of water, just a cup of water, or let's say a slice of bread, right? Okay, this could really just kill one of these individuals because their stomachs were shrunken so small. Okay, their stomachs would really burst by taking all this in at once, even though it would be somewhat of a snack to us. They're deprived of food for that long. So there's many reports of a lot of the Jewish people that were killed just by intaking just the slightest bit of nutrition from the Allied forces that were entering these camps and liberating them. All right, so is there any questions? Any questions? So yeah, the ghettos as well. Okay, so within these areas throughout Poland, where they literally made shift these communities, areas where they could deprive these Jewish people from these resources as well. And yeah, it was just a brutal process here. And the Holocaust, we just need to talk about. I know it's hard to look at some of these pictures, but we need to make sure that we remember what happened. All right, so now you have your sources here. Again, I have the printed out copies. If you guys want to use that, great. If not, it's no big deal. Just fill it out online, like you can on Canvas. But I recommend working in groups. If you want to just work on your own, that's fine too. Okay, tomorrow I might give you a little bit of time to work on these, but try to get the majority of them done today. Yeah, pretty good time. Not bad. Yeah, like 18 minutes here. So use your time wisely. Okay, focus on the sources, answer in detail, and I don't want to see any goofing off. Okay, make sure you guys are sitting in a seat. Okay, I don't want to see anybody standing around. Okay, and make sure you guys get this finished up. All right. If you guys want to, so I was thinking one person could just fill it out, but if you want to do it per group, so if you want to just put everybody's name on the packet, right, that you're working on, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. So not everybody has to fill out the document. If you already have that process already kind of done, no big deal, no problem. Okay, no problem. Just make sure you guys talk about these sources with one another. Again, we'll review them tomorrow, but the whole point of this is